Have you ever just stopped and wondered how a web page, which at its core is just a simple text file, comes to life? How does it react when you click on things or update itself with new info right before your eyes? Well, there's a little magic trick the browser performs, and today we're going to pull back the curtain and show you how it's done.
Okay, so the secret sauce is really understanding this one core difference. When your browser first gets a web page, it's handed a static blueprint. Think of it like a printed floor plan for a house. It's just ink on paper. But what you actually see and interact with, that's a whole different story. That's a living, breathing, interactive model of that house.
Right. So that first file that comes from the server, the HTML, it's really just a lifeless blueprint. It's got the structure, sure. It's got all the text, but once it's on your computer, that original file itself can't change. It's fixed. It's static. So the browser has to do something clever with it. It has to build something more than just a flat drawing. It has to create something beyond that, something living. The browser doesn't just hang the blueprint on the wall for you to look at. It uses that blueprint to construct a powerful and flexible model of the page, right there in your browser. And this is exactly where the browser puts on its architect hat. It takes that static, boring HTML blueprint and builds this dynamic, interactive model. This living model is literally the key to the entire modern web, and it has a name you've probably heard, the Document Object Model, or as we all call it, the DOM. Let's just break that name down because it tells you everything. Document, well, that's just the HTML document we started with. Object, now this is the crucial part. The browser turns every single piece of that document, every heading, every paragraph, every little button into its own controllable object. And model just means it arranges all these new objects into a logical tree-like structure. And here's the kicker. The DOM isn't a language. It's a standard, an API. It's like a rule book that tells other languages how to talk to this living model.
And the process for this is actually pretty simple. Step 1. The browser reads the static HTML file, the blueprint. Step 2, it converts every tag it finds into one of those controllable objects we were just talking about. And finally, step 3, it builds those objects into that organized tree structure, the DOM, which is a perfect, living representation of the page.
Which brings us to the big, obvious question, right? If the original HTML file is never touched and the browser has just built this fancy model, how does anything on the page actually change? Who has the permission to go in and start messing with this living model? And this is where our magician enters the stage, JavaScript. JavaScript is the programming language that's given the keys to the kingdom. It's allowed to talk to, and more importantly, manipulate that live DOM model. It's the one that performs all the amazing tricks that make a web page feel alive. And now we've hit what is maybe the single most important concept to really nail down. JavaScript does not, I repeat, does not change the original HTML file, way back on the server. That blueprint is safe in its filing cabinet. All the action, all the magic, happens exclusively on the living DOM model that exists inside your browser just for you right now.
Okay, enough talk. It's time to become the magicians ourselves. We're going to open up the browser's developer console and actually perform a few of these tricks in real time. You're about to see just how powerful this whole thing is.
All right, our first spell is all about finding something. With this command, we're basically telling JavaScript, hey, go into that big DOM model and find me the specific element that has the ID first heading. And just like that, we've grabbed a reference to it. We're now holding it in our hand, so to speak. Now for the fun part. We just tell that title object we're holding, hey, change your color property to tomato. The moment we hit enter, the browser, which is constantly watching the DOM, sees that change and instantly repaints the screen. Boom, the title is red. It's a live update. But we can do so much more than just change styles. With this command, we're literally changing the words inside the title. We are directly manipulating the text that you see on the page. And again, the original HTML file is completely untouched. This is all happening live in the browser. Now, this is where it gets kind of mind-blowing. We can conjure things out of thin air. This spell create element just created a brand new paragraph element that never, ever existed in the original blueprint. Right now, it's just an object floating in your computer's memory, just waiting for an instruction. And for the final act, we take our brand new, freshly created paragraph and tell the browser to append it, to add it to the body of our living document model. And as soon as we do that, poof, the browser repaints again, and our new element just appears on the page. We literally just created content from nothing. So when you put all these little pieces together, you can see just how ridiculously powerful this system is. The ability to find elements, change elements, and even create new elements completely on the fly. This is what makes the DOM the absolute heart of the modern web. Every single interactive feature you use, from an infinite scrolling feed to a complex web app, it all comes down to this exact process. So the next time you see a web page spring to life, just remember the magic that's happening behind the scenes. Remember, it's not a static document. It's a living model, built just for you. Every part of that page is an object that our magician, JavaScript, can play with at any moment. This core loop, build, manipulate, repaint, that's the fundamental rhythm of the entire interactive web. And that kind of leaves us with one last big question. We've seen how the browser builds this amazing model from the blueprint, but think about it. Does it really have to go through that whole process, building it from scratch, every single time you visit a page? Well, it turns out it has a very clever trick for that too, but that's a story we'll save for our next explainer.